After more than a decade as Honda's MotoGP talisman, Marc Marquez is officially a Ducati rider. Even 3 months after the announcement of his bombshell Gresini move, it remains a jarring truth to internalize, and last week's launch of Gresini's 2024 season, with Marquez finally decked out in team gear, made it no less jarring. But what can Marquez actually achieve in these new colours? The 6-time champion himself is trying to play down expectations, but we, respectfully of course, disagree. One of the sport's greatest ever is finally back on a bike worthy of his stratospheric talents, which, to us, means you're looking at one of 2024's title favourites, if not the title favourite, whether he likes to admit it or not. The race was there for Gresini's season launch in Riccione. Here's our MotoGP rider Simon Patterson's view of an event that certainly promised and suggested more than Marquez himself is willing to let on.
So I have to admit, even sitting here in the room watching Marc Marquez walk out in leathers that say Ducati and big letters across to the front of them, it still feels totally surreal that he's not going to be in a Repsol Honda next year. But we're here, he is, and you know the main takeaway from tonight has to be that he looks hungry. He looks younger, almost, if that's even possible. It's obvious that he's fired up for this new challenge. It's obvious that he sees an opportunity to do something that he hasn't been able to do the last few years as he struggled on a difficult to ride Repsol Honda with injury after injury after injury. He has a great opportunity and he knows it. It's going to be really, really exciting to see exactly what he can do with it.
An adaptation is always required when a MotoGP rider changes bikes, but Marquez looked immediately at home in the 49 laps he already got to spend on the Ducati in the post-season test in Valencia late last year. And that surprised precisely nobody. Yes, the Ducati bike was once MotoGP's biggest one-trick pony, great on power, but hopeless mid-corner. Now though, it's so good at virtually everything, and virtually everyone who gets on it is fast. So you have MotoGP's rider of the decade on a peach of a bike. He's going to win it all, right? Marquez knows all too well that this is the expectation from everyone, but it is not an expectation that he is ready to accept, publicly anyway.
The ambition is the same as 2013. I mean, if I say many times, and I will repeat, if I'm here it's because I feel that I have the chance and the level to fight for that top 5 positions. I mean, I cannot say that fight for the championship. To fight for the championship, you need to be extra in many points, but still I feel that I can fight for that top 5 positions, top 6 positions. So yeah, I decide or I choose that direction to be longer in my career. Only this, and then it's like of course the easy way was staying Honda, and it was less pressure to myself, more money in my bank account, and many different things, but it's not the target.
So, top 5s? Top 6s? For a rider with 59 MotoGP wins and 6 titles? How come? Well, Marquez is on a winless streak dating back to 2021, and he has made it clear that he knows he is stepping onto somebody else's turf. Reigning champion Pecco Bagnaia and his hotshot rival Jorge Martin monopolized the MotoGP title battle last year. They both have multiple years of Ducati experience and no pesky riding habits to discard from a personal history with some other bike. Bagnaia and Martin are both factory contracted and factory supported, and will both have the latest version of the Desmosedici, that's what Ducati's MotoGP bike is called, available to them. Marquez, though, remains on a hand-me-down 2023 bike. Now, hand-me-downs won plenty last year. Ducati tech genius Gigi Dall'Igna, the architect behind its current MotoGP supremacy, claimed last year that Ducati was targeting a bigger step for the GP24, but Marquez remains convinced that Bagnaia and Martin will have effectively, in his words, the same bike as him. But their experience will be an advantage, and it would be not normal, he feels, to come in and start beating them right away. The other question is whether the Valencia test told a lie. Given a late November date, it was cold and windy, limiting conditions for a MotoGP bike. That meant Marquez was constrained, and so was everyone else. But also, Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia is one Marquez likes. Now MotoGP heads to preseason tests at Sepang in Qatar, and then a season opener in Qatar. Marquez is anxious to see the performance in that stretch. He sees those two as his bogey tracks. It is a slightly ludicrous thing to say, given he has MotoGP wins and podiums aplenty at both, but relatively speaking, yes, they are. Marquez's arguments for caution did not do very much to sway my colleague Simon.
All in all, it looks like a package that is just set to deliver bigger and better things. The bar was already high whenever you look at what Gresini did in the past, but with Marc Marquez on board, you really get a sense that anything at all is possible when the season starts in just a few weeks' time now.
The rest of us aren't swayed either. Caution is wise. Caution is also boring, and sometimes caution is misplaced. Marquez's caution could end up all three. But to say we share that caution, that would be dishonest. Gresini is a much smaller operation than the factory Honda team. Or the factory Ducati team, yes. And a lot is made of its family feel and underdog status. None of that can overshadow a proven track record in MotoGP, both in the 2000s as a top-notch Honda customer, and these days as an extremely potent Ducati satellite. Arguably, the team's stock only rose since Marquez signed, and it had nothing to do with Marquez. Well, not this Marquez anyway. Brother Alex Marquez and the replaced Fabio Di Giannantonio were at the front almost all the time at the end of 2023. In that flyaway spell of races, Gresini won a sprint and a Grand Prix, and it very much could have won another couple of Grand Prix. Di Giannantonio's transformation from a rider who was done in MotoGP into a genuine stud was particularly informative. And it came under the stewardship of, yes, Marquez's new crew chief, Frankie Carchetti. It will probably hinder Marquez that he was able to bring just one mechanic from his long-term, closely knit crew at Honda, and that iconic crew chief Santi Hernandez had to stay behind. But, as he himself says, it will not be a big problem. Make no mistake, Carchetti, who did also win the 2020 title with Joan Mir at Suzuki, absolutely has the credentials to take Marc to the top, and Gresini does too. In 2004, Valentino Rossi, Marc's idol turned hated rival, swapped a dominant Honda for an underperforming Yamaha and won the title at first attempt. In 2011, Casey Stoner shed Ducati red for Honda orange and won the title at first attempt. Then in 2013, Marquez himself rocked up fresh-faced to MotoGP, straight out of Moto2, and won the title at first attempt. Given what Marquez has now at Gresini, and given the type of rider he is, it would almost be disrespectful to set any other target than the championship. The allure and the urgency of this mission, the mission to win this title for Gresini, is also intensified by one simple, tangential truth. The exact circumstances that brought Marquez to a satellite team were, let's say, a lightning strike. And lightning will not strike twice. Marquez's career-altering injury, Honda's radical underperformance, Honda's willingness to let him go, Gresini's willingness to wait for him, and a total lack of factory options, those all had to come together. And Marquez himself, as he readily admits, had to give up a lot of money to make it happen. That money will need to make its way to his bank account sooner or later, starting in 2025. And the only way to do that is a factory contract. Neither Marquez nor Gresini are dancing around this point. For a slightly subtle example, look at Gresini's 2024 livery and compare it to what it had in 2023. The same thing, right? 99% same sponsors and all, despite the arrival of a MotoGP legend? Well, that's by design. As the team's commercial chief Carlo Merlini told us, Gresini, financially stable and happy with his current sponsor roster, was not going to risk jeopardizing any of that for what it clearly knows is probably a one-year rental. Marquez isn't hiding it either.
And I say no Honda Thanks Day, and I say here again, maybe in the future we can cross, and I hope to cross again our futures, but it's not only my decision. Also, I need to be fast on the racetrack, to be more doors and more ways to have the way to choose. I mean, I don't know if I explain well, but if you are fast on the racetrack, then will be better, or I will be in a better position for choose my future.
The message is clear. Maybe he'll be back at Honda. Its new bike looks pretty good. Maybe he'll get a cushy Red Bull subsidized deal at KTM. Maybe he'll be so good on the Ducati that the Italian brand will move heaven and earth to get him into factory red. All of those scenarios point to an expiration date on this Marquez-Gresini alliance. Chances are 2024 is it. Only 2024 for Marquez to write his fairy tale with Gresini. Only 2024 for Marquez to become MotoGP's first ever satellite rider champion, which would be an insane flex on his CV. If he fails, he fails. No shame in that, no catastrophe, no damaged legacy. He could retire right now, after all, and be worshipped for decades. But 2024 is not about the novelty of seeing Marquez in unfamiliar Gresini colors. No, it's about him trying to take those colors to the top of the mountain, whether he wants to admit it or not.